Chapter 61, She Loves Me. After inviting Zhang Xuan out for dinner yesterday, they ended up meeting with Shang Bin. For him, the grandson of an elder and a high-level teacher of the academy, to be pummeled to such a state, it would be bizarre instead for him not to seek vengeance. However, since the academy banned private duels between teachers in its compounds, could it be possible that the fellow sent someone else to intentionally mask himself so as to assault Zhang Xuan here? It was no wonder that Shenbairu would think so after all. Yao Han's dress-up was way too bizarre. A thick layer of white cloth covered his entire face, revealing only his eyes at a glance. The impression he gave others was of one unwilling to reveal his true identity. Furthermore, he refused to answer upon being questioned. Thinking about it now, the reason why Zhang Xuan forbade her from following him yesterday was because he knew that Shang Bin would be unable to take it lying down. He knew that Shang Bin would definitely find someone to take revenge on him. A cold gleam flashed across Shenbairu's narrowed eyes. She was the cause of this entire situation, so naturally, it wasn't right for her to be watching by the sidelines. Do you know the punishment for attacking a teacher in the academy? Attacking a teacher? Yao Han didn't expect the beautiful lady to ask such a question. He was first taken aback, but he soon recalled the event with Shang Bin yesterday. In an instant, realization struck him. Could it be that you are the Shenbairu? The cause of Shang Bin pummeling him was due to Shang Bin getting jealous of Zhang Xuan, as the both of them were vying for Shenbairu's favor. He would never forget this incident even if he was beaten to death. Yet, at this moment, a beautiful lady suddenly popped up and asked him whether he knew that attacking a teacher could result in a penalty. Who else could this beautiful lady be other than her? Looks like she was here to seek vengeance for Shang Bin after he pounded her pursuer yesterday. That's right. Shenbairu put on a wary expression as her fists clenched tightly together. Her aura billowed. If you want to avoid any trouble, leave right now, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Being a fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle, she exerted intense pressure on others upon releasing her full strength. Impolite? Aren't you here to find trouble with me? What a lousy excuse. Seeing how she was preparing to make a move when the both of them had barely spoken a few words, Yao Han's face darkened to the extremities. As a butler of Bai City Lord residence, he was a powerful figure in Bai City. No matter who he met, they would always show some deference to him. Yet, over here, he was first beaten to a pulp by someone, and now, a lowly ordinary teacher didn't even show him respect. Rage surged through him. How could he still tolerate it after hearing these words? His complexion darkened as he clenched his fist. Without a word, he charged forward. The moment he made a move, the rebuke that Shenbairu was about to direct towards him got choked in her throat. With no other choice, she could only face up to him. Bang bang bang. In a moment, the both of them started crossing blows. Shenbairu might just be fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle, but she possessed incredible stamina and profound techniques. Furthermore, even though Yao Han's fighting prowess surpassed her, due to his injury, he wasn't able to take her down within a short moment. Shang Shi, oh, what did Elder Shang say? On the pavement in the academy, Kagsan couldn't resist the urge to ask the young man walking over. Rest assured, as long as that student of yours did not willingly acknowledge Zhang Xuan as his teacher, he is dead meat this time. Shang Bin sneered coldly. This morning, Elder Shang ran over to the teacher guild to find Elder Mo and invited him here. As long as he brought Zhang Xuan and his student to the Enlightenment Will Tower, the latter's reputation would be ruined and he would be expelled from Hongshan Academy. That's great. The moment Zhang Xuan is expelled from the academy, Shenloshi would definitely give in to Gong Tsai's persistence. By then, it would be difficult for her to stay away from you. Kagsan flattered him with a smile. No doubt about it, Shenbairu was deceived by that lad's flowery talk yesterday. That's why she gave in and had a meal with him. As long as that lad scrams from the academy, I don't believe that my efforts to woo her will remain in vain. The moment Shenbairu flashed through his mind, self-confidence welled up in Shang Bin once again. He was the grandson of an elder, as well as a high-level teacher, not to mention that he was tall and dashing. Regardless of which aspect one was speaking of, he was countless times more outstanding than Zhang Xuan. In the entire academy, only he was worthy of an enchanting lady like Shenbairu. As long as he persisted on, who else could she fancy other than him? Then, I will be giving my blessings to Shang Shao to bring the beauty home soon. Kagsan quickly followed up with a form. Rest assured, if I were to become a couple with Shenloshi, I will make sure to reward you greatly. Shang Bin wanted to laugh heartily, but the next moment, he accidentally tugged on his wounded muscles and excruciating pain surged through him. Also, other than Zhang Xuan, I will not forgive the one who beat me up yesterday, Yao Han. So what if he is the butler of Bai City Lord residence? This is Dangxuan Royal City, not a place for him to do as he pleases. That fellow pounded his face in public, leaving him disfigured. How could he possibly forgive him? Naturally. Kagsan nodded his head suddenly. He froze before quickly pointing forward. Shang Shi, oh, quickly, look. What happened? Shang Bin was bewildered, unable to hold in his curiosity. He turned to take a look. In that instant, his eyes narrowed. Isn't that Shenloshi? Why is she battling with someone else? That is Yao Han. Right outside Zhang Xuan's classroom, the two were fighting intensely. One was the goddess that he thought of even in his sleep, Shenbairu, while the other was the person whom he just spoke of, the one who made him grind his teeth in resentment, Yao Han. The two of them weren't acquainted with one another, so why were they fighting? Shang Shi, oh, could it be Shenloshi found out that you were beaten up by this fellow, so she felt angered and wanted to take revenge for you? After hesitating for a moment, Kagsan suddenly thought of a possibility and commented, is that true? Shang Bin was taken aback. Indeed, otherwise, there is no reason for the two to be fighting one another. Shenloshi has a gentle personality and treats others kindly. She doesn't get into fights easily. You should be well aware of that as well. Right after you were beaten up, she gets into a huge fight with him. If she didn't do it for Shang Shi, I can't think of any other plausible reason behind this. To be willing to go so far for you, I dare to confirm that Shenloshi has some feelings for you, and very possibly, it could be love. Kagsan said, she loves me? Shang Bin's body froze, as a wave of happiness gushed through his heart. That's right, there's no other possible reason for Shinbairu to fight with that guy. Never would he have thought that this woman, despite refusing his dates and keeping her distance from him, she would actually love him so much, and care so much for him. Even going to the extent of battling a Fighter 6 Dan expert despite being a Fighter 5 Dan. This cannot do. I cannot allow her to get injured because of me. Agitation filled his heart. Shangbin felt as though he had been revived and fighting spirit gushed through him. The death that was the hardest to bear was one from a beauty. The other party had already gone this far. What did he have to hesitate about? If he continued hesitating, then he wouldn't be a man anymore. Shenloshi, I am here to help you. With a furious roar, Shangbin rushed upwards. Yao Han was in the midst of battling with Shinbairu. After testing her out for a few dozens of blows, he had already grasped onto the offensive methods of the other party. He was confident that as long as he got serious, he would be able to defeat her within a few blows. Just as he was about to execute his ultimate technique, he heard a shout and Shangbin appeared before him. As I expected, they are a team. Damn it, damn it. Seeing his arrival, Yao Han's rage flared up once more. He was suspecting whether the incident might just be a misunderstanding a moment ago, but by the looks of it now, the heck it was a misunderstanding. It was obvious that these two were in it together, and they were intent on finding trouble with him. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got as such. He no longer held back and struck down mercilessly upon Shangbin. Shangbin rushed in all of the sudden spiritedly, and in the turn of an eye, he started crossing blows with Yao Han. Shinbairu was unable to react to the sudden change of situation. Upon seeing the two of them battle one another, she couldn't help but be taken aback. Can it be that I have guessed wrongly, and this man isn't sent by him? The moment such an idea popped into her head, another possibility flashed through her mind and her face darkened. I see, he is trying to kill two birds with one stone. No wonder I found it weird if this masked fellow wanted to find trouble with Zhang Xuan. He could have just rushed in straight. There is no reason for him to be loitering around the entrance from the looks of it now. It seems that he wants to play out the act of a hero rescuing the beauty so as to attract my attention. Chapter 62. Shangbin on the brink of collapsing. No matter where a beauty went, she would always attract the attention of males for her. Many have come up with all kinds of methods just to make her spare them an additional glance. This kind of hero rescuing the beauty was one of the lousiest tricks in the book. In such a play, either he would showcase his incredible prowess, or he would allow the other party to bash him up, thus inducing her to feel pity for him. From then on, the pity would slowly give rise to love. In any case, regardless of which, those were doings with purposeful intentions, and it incurred her irritation. Upon coming to this realization, Shinbairu retreated from the vicinity of the battle. Since the both of you are doing it purposely, I won't bother with it. Then you can carry on doing whatever you like. Bang 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 bang. Seeing his nemesis charging in frenziedly, Yao Han gave his all without showing any mercy whatsoever. In just a few moments, the fearless and resolute Shangbin was beaten to a pulp once again, and fresh blood trickled down his face. Yao Han wasn't any better either. Blood permeated through the layers of cloth on his mummy-like face. Such realistic acting. Go on with it, Shinbairu commented with arms akimbo. Shenloshi, help Shang Shao quickly, he is on the verge of losing. Seeing Shangbin beaten to the verge of death, Cao couldn't resist stepping forward to persuade her. Being just Fighter 4 Dan Piga Realm, he paled far too much in comparison to the two who were battling at the moment. He would just be courting death if he interfered in the fight as such. The only viable solution was to plead with the Shenloshi standing before him. Is it alright for me to help him? Seeing the other party's support coming up to her, Shinbairu sneered coldly. Yes, if you don't save him, Shang Shao will definitely die. Unable to see through her cold intentions, Cao hurriedly said, fine, I will go then. Shinbairu stepped forward. Seeing her walking over to join the fray once more, Yao Han pushed Shangbin away with both of his hands, causing the latter to retreat 2 steps. Then, he stepped out of the battle and said, very well, I will remember this, your nobility, as well as the favor the both of you have showered me with. I will make sure to return it in the future. He was wounded at the moment, and just with Shinbairu herself was already pushing it for him. Furthermore, even if he was able to defeat the both of them, they were currently in Hongshan Academy. The longer the battle dragged on herefore, the more likely troublesome matters would come his way. If the other party had prepared some scheme beforehand, he might even find himself unable to escape then. Thus, after hesitating for a moment, he decisively chose to leave. The two of them might have failed to exact vengeance upon him, and the other party had been reduced to quite a pitiful state by him as well. But this grudge had been established. It was just a matter of time before he returned it back to them. After which, Yao Han turned around to leave in an instant. He disappeared from the vision of the crowd. If a Fighter 6 Dan Pixie Realm expert were to flee, even Shinbairu would be unable to catch up with him. Besides, she didn't have the intention to pursue him either at this moment. The cold intention on her face deepened. The moment she was about to step in, the other party fled. What did this mean? Simple. It meant that the show had come to an end naturally. He would have to leave. Shenloshi, I didn't expect that you would treat me so well. I understand your intentions. Seeing Shinbairu charging ahead to save him, Shangbin was filled with joy. He turned his completely swollen red face over, smiled and struck a pose that he finds dashing. Actually, I love you as well. Still furious with him, she was curious to see what kind of lousy tricks this fellow would use to attract her attention. Hearing these words, Shinbairu almost exploded from rage. My intentions? My intentions your head. You hoodlum. Shinbairu spat through gritted teeth. Pa. A slap flew over. What? After mustering his courage to confess, just as he thought the beauty would leap into his embrace, he felt intense pain on his face uncontrollably. His body staggered and he knocked onto the metal gate. Shangbin's eyes spun and he almost fainted on the spot. The heck did you slap me for? Didn't you battle with someone else for me? He was almost about to go crazy. What the heck is going on? Friendly at one moment, furious at the next, spring at one moment, winter at the next. Did I offend you or what? Gia. Just as Shang Bin's heart had broken down and was still trying to comprehend the situation, the door to the classroom slowly opened. Jiang Xuan walked out and frowned upon seeing everyone else. I am in the midst of my lessons. It is unbecoming for you all to be making a ruckus here. Jiang Xuan, you came at the perfect timing. Just as his heart was in the midst of crumbling, upon seeing Jiang Xuan's appearance, Shang Bin's rage immediately flurried. Cao Xunloshi has already submitted an appeal to the school, accusing you of using deception to coerce his student, Liu Yang, to become your student. The Academy has already approved the usage of the Enlightenment Will trial, so I advise you to quickly bring Liu Yang over. Enlightenment Will trial? Jiang Xuan was puzzled for a moment, then, recalling the memories of his previous self, he came to a realization and frowned. Indeed, right now, I am passing this message to you as a representative of the Education Bureau. If you don't go, that would be tantamount to disobeying the rules of the Academy, and similarly, you will be fired as well. Shang Bin sneered coldly. He might be unable to defeat Yao Han, and he didn't dare to say too much to Goddess Shin thus. He could only direct all of his wrath onto this trash of a teacher. Jiang Xuanloshi, don't go. Shenbairu's beautiful eyebrows knitted together. She might not know what tricks Shang Bin had under his sleeves for doing this, but regardless of what, this was definitely a ploy directed towards Jiang Xuan. The moment he agreed and a problem occurred with the Enlightenment Will trial, not only would he lose his teaching license, he might even get fired. However, before she could finish her words, Jiang Xuan interrupted her with a hand gesture and said, all right, I'll go. It was true that Liu Yang felt indignant upon becoming Jiang Xuan's student before. However, at this moment, Liu Yang was already completely impressed with him. Even if the latter were to tell him to jump off from a tall building to practice movement techniques, he would most probably agree to it without any hesitation. With such level of trust, what did he have to fear from an Enlightenment Will trial? Given how confident this fellow is, let's see who will be the one to be embarrassed in the end. If you dare not go, I will inform the Security Bureau in the Academy and have them take you. Thinking that Jiang Xuan would be resistant to it, Shang Bin went on shouting righteously when the situation finally struck him. Ah? What did you say? You will go? Jiang Xuan didn't reply. With a faint smile, he turned around and walked to the entrance of the classroom. Liu Yang, come with me. Yes. Liu Yang walked out from the classroom. Not expecting the other party to be so cooperative, traces of hesitation appeared on Shang Bin's confident face. Shang Shay, oh, don't be worried. This Liu Yang is a student that I brought in specially. I am confident that he wishes to be my student. Cao Xun said with a suppressed voice. All right. Hearing his guarantee, Shang Bin nodded his head and walked forward with large strides. Let's go. You. Seeing the young man agreeing so recklessly, Shenbairu felt anxious. The Enlightenment Will trial was a method of settling disputes when two teachers have fallen out with one another but were still unable to settle the matter the moment the trial started. The side that was proven to be guilty of deception would receive a severe punishment. How could such a thing be accepted that easily? No matter what, he should try to push it down and ideally settle it peacefully, otherwise he could be in deep trouble. It's nothing much. Knowing that the other party was worrying for him, Jiang Xuan smiled lightly without explaining anything. He lifted his leg and followed behind Shang Bin towards the Academy's Enlightenment Will tower. This fellow, seeing how the young man took her advice for granted, Shenbairu was furious and anxious. As a beauty, others would always happily listen to her own words, yet, not only did this fellow ignore her advice, he even charged towards what she was warning him against. Wasn't this courting death? One must know that Shang Bin's grandfather was the head of the Education Bureau. If he dared to do so, then he must have already prepared a trap beforehand against him. Leaping into misfortune on your own accord, you deserve it if anything happens to you. Shenbairu stomped her leg furiously. However, after a slight moment of hesitation, she still quickly caught up with the lot. Towards Jiang Xuan, she only felt curiosity. Love was out of the equation. However, she was the reason why Shang Bin was going against him no matter what. She couldn't just stand idly by the sidelines. Chapter 63, Elder Mo Xiang. In the lofty Enlightenment Will tower. Elder Mo, I will be depending on you this time. Elder Shang Chen looked at the elderly who was sitting by his side. An elder from the teacher guild, Mo Xiang. Elder Shang, there is no need to be so formal. After all, we are already old friends. Elder Mo Xiang was in his 50s and a sparse grey-colored beard could be seen on his face. Worry not, if this teacher really resorts to coercion and forces others to become his students, I will definitely report it up to the guild to strip him of his teaching license. Sigh, it is negligence on my part. Elder Shang Chen shook his head with a bewailing look. He lamented, when this teacher scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination, I gave him an ultimatum: if he doesn't recruit any students, he would be fired immediately. Perhaps due to pressure, he resorted to such means. It is all my fault. He sighed. Elder Shang, you shouldn't blame yourself out of sheer kindness. You gave him another chance, yet this fellow knows no gratitude, and instead, he chose to commit such despicable actions. He is truly shameless and vile. Elder Mo's face darkened as he exuded a forceful aura as a teacher. Instead of pondering on how to better nurture others, he spends his time on such underhanded tricks. I would like to see the one who gave him the guts to resort to such means. Elder Mo Xiang was well reputed for his hatred towards villains and villainous acts. Upon hearing about a teacher coercing the students, he was on the verge of erupting from anger. If it wasn't for Cao Xunloshi's righteousness in reporting the incident to say that his student has been coerced by the teacher, even going to the extent of applying for the Enlightenment Will trial to resolve the issue, I would still be oblivious to all these happenings. With both of his hands behind his back, Elder Shang Chen shook his head continuously. His contemplating eyes were directed towards the empty sky, as though he had committed the world's greatest negligence. If Jiang Xuan was here, he would definitely be surprised. This fellow's ability as Wang Bai was far more superior than him. Although the Enlightenment Will trial wounds the harmony and camaraderie between teachers, it is still worth it if it weeds out the poisonous ones of the lot. Don't blame yourself too much. Seeing his expression, Elder Mo Xiang was secretly impressed. Oftentimes, a student whom several teachers favor at the same time would appear in the academy at such a moment. Everyone would try to settle the issue privately this way. Not only was the fellowship between colleagues not wounded, order was also maintained in the institution. Only when the problem was truly unable to be settled privately would they apply for such a method to resolve it. Enlightenment will trial, just as its name dictated, was a test on the heart of the student, allowing him to make a choice based on his true will. However, this meant that the relationship between the competing teachers would become totally hostile, thus wounding the harmonious spirit between teachers. This was the reason why in the century since the inception of Hongshan Academy, there were only slightly more than 10 applications for the Enlightenment will trial. They didn't expect that they would be able to encounter such an incident as well. After feigning contemplation, Elder Shang Chen secretly chuckled upon seeing that he had managed to rile up the rage of the other party. He gestured with his hand and passed down an order, "Let them enter." Jia. Immediately after his words sounded out, the heavy doors slowly opened and Zhang Xuan, Cao Xung, Shang Bin, Shen Bairu and Liu Yang walked in. "Cao Xung Loshi, are you the one who has applied for the Enlightenment will trial?" The moment everyone stopped in their footsteps, Elder Shang Chen asked with raised eyebrows, "I beg of Elder to redress my grievance." Cao Xung cried loudly, "This Zhang Xuan coerced my student, Liu Yang, who has already acknowledged me as his teacher, thus violating the rules of fair competition among teachers. As such, I specially applied for the Enlightenment will trial so as to bring Liu Yang justice at the same time. I hope that the academy can punish this shameless fellow." Bring justice? Liu Yang was oblivious to what was going on as he was simply ordered to follow the group here. Upon hearing the words of the other party, he finally understood that Cao Xung was trying to make use of him to deal with his benefactor. As such, he hurriedly sent a gaze towards Zhang Xuan, "Teacher." Before he could finish his words, he saw a fluster flashing across the Zhang Loshi, who was calm and formidable a moment ago in the classroom. Indignantly, he said, "Cao Loshi, you are spouting nonsense. Liu Yang is willing to become my student. I had never coerced him." His voice carried a trace of unconfidence and panic, as though his lie had been exposed. Unable to believe this sight, Liu Yang blinked his eyes. After 2 lessons, he was already completely impressed with Zhang Xuan, even to the extent of thinking that he was omnipotent. He felt that becoming his student was a result of fair competition between 2 teachers and that it could be explained easily. How did the situation evolve to such a point all of a sudden? Zhang Xuan's eyes were filled with fear and his body trembled slightly, as though he was caught red-handed in the bed with someone else. Liu Yang was unable to make heads or tails of the situation. Which nerve of Zhang Loshi's brain was convulsing for him to behave like this? Teacher Liu Yang looked over, but before he could voice out the doubts in his heart, he saw Zhang Loshi turning over to Harumph. "Liu Yang, you better explain it properly. Did I coerce you or not?" As he said so, he secretly blinked his eyes. No. Liu Yang hurriedly shook his head. No matter how dim-witted he might be, it was clear to see that Zhang Loshi was trying to pull one over the other party. It will do as long as he cooperated with him. The both of them were aware of what was going on, but in the eyes of others, it seemed as though Zhang Xuan was threatening Liu Yang to say something against his will. Otherwise, why would Liu Yang answer so hesitantly? As expected, upon seeing this sight, Elder Mo's complexion turned slightly awful. "You must be Zhang Xuan. I will give you one more chance as long as you obediently cancel the lessons of this Liu Yang and allow him to come under Cao Loshi's tutelage once more. I can choose not to proceed ahead with the Enlightenment will trial." "Cancel lessons?" Zhang Xuan scratched his head. "Liu Yang has acknowledged me as his teacher out of his own will. It would be unfair to him if I were to push him away." "Unfair? Own will?" The corner of Elder Mo's lips twitched. "Don't you feel embarrassed for saying these words? You are just a teacher who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination. He can't be happy to push away your lessons. Yet you speak of unfairness. Where did your self-confidence come from?" Just as he was about to continue speaking, he heard Cao Xung and Shang Bin shouting simultaneously, "Elder Mo, this won't do." "Why?" The Enlightenment will trial was something very troublesome. The moment it started, someone had to be punished. Otherwise, if everyone were to follow through with this process, the academy would be unable to upkeep with the expenditure. Initially, Elder Mo intended to have this incident resolved peacefully. Upon hearing the obstruction of the duo, he turned around and looked at them. "Elder Mo, Cao Loshi has already applied for the Enlightenment will trial and the academy has already agreed to it. If it were to stop abruptly at this moment, doesn't this mean that the academy's rules are being taken lightly?" Shang Bin hurriedly said. What kind of joke was this? It wasn't easy for them to set up this situation to push Zhang Xuan off the cliff if they were to settle peacefully. Didn't this mean that all their efforts would be in vain? If so, wouldn't the humiliation he was put under yesterday be in vain? Indeed, Elder Mo, I am also thinking instead of the student. I hope that he can follow his own heart and choose the teacher that he favors the most, rather than being coerced into making a choice. Cao Xung hurriedly said his words were righteous and emotional. If not for the crimson palm print from Shang Bin's slap yesterday, he would have surely be able to impress many. All right then. Upon hearing the words of the two, Elder Mo nodded his head, no longer holding up the process. Since you all have chosen the Enlightenment will trial, then naturally, I will have to list the rules out clearly first after the test is completed. Whoever the examinee Liu Yang ultimately chooses to acknowledge as his teacher will be victorious in this trial. Of course, the one who loses will be punished. Thus, let's clarify the punishment first. At this point, the quiet Elder Shang Chen surveyed the surroundings before saying, this time, Cao Xung Loshi has chosen the harshest punishment. That is, upon the end of the trial, the losing side will be expelled from the academy. Zhang Xuan, do you have any objection to it? Upon hearing that it was the harshest punishment, Zhang Xuan looked over in disbelief with a sincere face. He said, there isn't a deep grudge between me and Cao Loshi. To have him expelled, isn't it going a little too far? Upon hearing these words, Elder Shang and the others froze. They turned and stared at Zhang Xuan as though they were looking at an idiot. Is there something wrong with the head of this fellow? You are the one who is going to be expelled, all right? Regardless of your opinion, you will have to agree to undertake the Enlightenment will trial. It is already too late to turn back now. Thinking that Zhang Xuan was spouting rubbish to reject the trial, Cao Xun sneered coldly. I am really doing this for your good. I still think that expelling straight away is too harsh. How about this? Zhang Xuan hesitated for a moment before saying, why don't we drop with the expulsion? We will just strip the losing side of his teaching license, then add in another 100 god-slaying flogs. Strip teaching license? 100 god-slaying flogs? The crowd blinked their eyes simultaneously and stared at one another. Every single one of them felt as though they were going mad. It seemed as though the losing side had managed to retain his position, so that he wouldn't end up jobless. However, in reality, this was much harsher than a direct expulsion. Are you sure that you didn't misspeak? Zhuang Bai, acting cool, putting on an act. Chapter 64, Trust Level. If one was expelled from the school, at the very least, he would still be a teacher. Even if not in Hongshan Academy, he could still teach at other academies. On the other hand, if one's teaching license was revoked, it would mean losing their identity no matter where they go. It would remain as a stain on their history and they would suffer from the mocking of others. That's precisely the reason why Elder Shang Chen got Eldermo from the teacher guild here. After all, despite being the head of the education bureau in Hongshan Academy, he didn't have the qualifications to strip a teacher of his teaching license just then. He didn't expect that before he could even talk about it. This fellow had already brought it up. Furthermore, adding 100 god-slaying flogs into the mix. God-slaying flog was a unique object created specially within Tangxuan Kingdom. One's flesh would tear apart and they would feel excruciating pain when beaten by it, yet it didn't hurt their core. No matter how powerful a person was, they would probably be half dead by the time the sentence was completed. Do you find the punishment insufficiently harsh, or do you think that you aren't dying fast enough? Everyone looked at the young man as though he was an idiot. Zhang Xuan Loshi, you, from behind. Shenbairu Loshi barely managed to avoid fainting on the spot. Are you really unable to tell that this is a trap Shangbin and Cao Xun specially dug out for you? Their purpose is for you to leap in initially. Being expelled from the school is already harsh enough, yet not only do you not try to push it down, you even raise the stakes up higher. Have you really gone insane? Don't blame anyone else since you are courting death. Harumphing coldly, Cao Xun looked at Shang Chen, who was standing in the middle of the crowd. Elder Shang, I concur with Zhang Loshi's suggestion. I hope that the academy can grant our request. Seeing him accept it so readily, Liu Yang slapped his forehead and looked at him with eyes of sympathy. Zhang Loshi is really evil. He first feigns guilt so as to boost the other party's confidence, after which, he makes use of the situation to up the stakes. Most probably, Cao Xun Loshi won't even know what is going on even after he is played to his death. It is fortunate that he became my teacher, otherwise, my life would be over. Upon recalling how he almost became the student of this Cao Loshi, Liu Yang shuddered and cowered backward. Alright then, since both parties have agreed on the stakes, then let's start the process. Elder Shang Chen nodded his head. 2 crystal balls, about the size of a watermelon each, were brought forward and placed on a stone pedestal completely transparent. They radiated warm light. These are crystal balls made of Will Inquisition Stone. Zhang Xuan and Cao Xun, both of you will drip a droplet of fresh blood on one of them each. After which, Liu Yang will touch them and the crystal balls will reflect the true thoughts in his mind in the form of trust level. The one whose trust level is higher, he will emerge victorious. Are there any other questions? Elder Shang Chen asked. None at all. Zhang Xuan and Cao Xun nodded their heads. The Enlightenment Will trial was actually a simple process. It only involved making use of the Will Inquisition Stone to peer into the innate world of the student. Whichever teacher the student trusted more, the teacher would win. The rules might be simple, but the Will Inquisition Stone was an expensive commodity, not to mention that it was the type of product that was exceptionally rare. Furthermore, it was a single-use consumable. Thus, unless required, the academy was unwilling to use such means. As for the expenditure required for the process, normally, it was compensated by the losing side. In the eyes of Cao Xun and the rest, Zhang Xuan was just an incapable trash who had scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination. How could it be possible for Liu Yang, a student among the top 100, to become his student willingly? He was bound to lose the moment the trial started. By then, not only would he be expelled from the academy shamefully, he would be bankrupt as well and his reputation would be in the gutters. Truly killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Let's begin. Seeing that the two have no objections to it, Elder Shang Chen gestured with his hand. Zhang Xuan and Cao Xun walked upwards to a crystal ball each and dripped a droplet of their fresh blood on the crystal balls. A warm glow radiated and their faces reflected in the Will Inquisition crystal balls. Go. Elder Shang Chen said. Liu Yang walked over and placed his left and right hands on a crystal ball each. Weng. The crystal balls immediately lit up and their radiance enveloped his entire body. The Will Inquisition Stone has hypnotic abilities. The moment one comes into contact with it, one will descend into an illusory realm. In there, all actions done will be a result of one's true will, and no external factors will influence one's will. If one was truly forced to become a student, not only will one not hold any trust towards his teacher, one might even hold feelings of abhorrence towards him. As such, the Enlightenment Will trial is the most straightforward and accurate method to differentiate whether a student is truly willing to acknowledge a teacher. Gazing upon Liu Yang, who had already closed his eyes and descended into the illusory realm, Elder Mo Xiang slowly said, "Indeed, trust level represents the level of trust one holds towards another, and the maximum of which is 100 points. Every 10 points is a demarcation zone and 0 points means an absolute lack of trust. 10 points means slight trust, 20 means average trust. The relationship between a teacher and student tends to be around 30. It is said that the more incredible teachers can make a student's trust in them reach 50. That is considered an extremely fearsome result, and it is extremely rare for such results to appear, even considering the entire Tangxuan kingdom. After all, a child's trust towards their parents only hovers around 60 or such. Elder Shang Chen stroked his beard as he continued. The conversation between the two was, in fact, telling the others about the concepts behind the Enlightenment will trial. Humans were thinking creatures and each of them had their own thoughts. It wasn't that easy a feat to have one trust in another. Not mentioning others, even one's parents, who have lived with them since young, were unable to reach 100 points of trust. Needless to say, a teacher. Only through long periods of interaction could one's trust level in another slowly rise up. Yet, it had been barely 2 days since the start of school. Furthermore, given Zhang Xuan's horrid reputation, how could he induce trust in any of his students? It was clear to see even when thinking with one's toes. Right, Elder Mo, I heard that one of the prerequisites to become a master teacher seems to be the student's trust level. May I know if it is true? After explaining the process, Elder Shang Chen remembered something and was unable to hold in his curiosity. He asked. Teachers could be divided into low-level, intermediate level and high-level. Zhang Xuan belonged to the bottom category, low-level, whereas Shen Bairu and Shang Bin have already attained the ranking of high-level. Most people's journey came to an end as a high-level teacher. The two famous teachers of Hongshan Academy, Lu Xun and Wang Zhao, were also at this level. Master teachers, however, were a level above that of high-level teachers. Master teachers weren't just famous for their reputation. They possessed their unique insights into cultivation. One could only become stronger under the tutelage of such a person, allowing them to eventually becoming a heroic figure of a territory. Emperor Shen Zhui was neither the queen's son nor the eldest son by logic. It was impossible for the crown to be passed down to him. However, it was said that during his youth, he once studied under a master teacher for a few days, causing his strength to increase by leaps and bounds, thus becoming the strongest of the younger generation. Eventually, he even became the #1 expert of the royal family, therefore forming the basis for him to inherit the throne to further the country's greatness. It was the dream of countless people to study under a master teacher. Teachers could only be considered as a lower occupation of the upper 9 paths. However, if one were to become a master teacher, then even among the numerous occupations among the upper 9 paths, they were without a doubt, and indisputably, a member of the #1 occupation. This was especially so, given the occupation's frightening ability to rally people. Even the popular occupations like apothecary, blacksmith, formation masters weren't able to compete at all. Teachers were known to have innumerable students all over the world. This was even more true for a master teacher. It was very possible for any expert one sees or hears of to be his student the moment something happened. Many people would answer to their calls, to the point that even those in authority dared not offend them. It was said that there was once an emperor from a great kingdom who offended a master teacher with a single call. Dozens of fighter 8 Dan Zongxi realm experts surged in, and in less than a day, the entire kingdom was destroyed. The royal family was completely purged. Not a single descendant of their bloodline remained. This was precisely why it is a known fact among cultivators that one could offend anyone, just not a master teacher. Who knew how many students he has? Who knew how many experts there are in their midst? Offending them was equivalent to stirring a hornet's nest. Even if one didn't die, he would be crippled. Of course, the title of a master teacher wasn't that easily attainable. There were many conditions and prerequisites to it, and earning a student's trust rapidly was one of it. Chapter 65:10. Indeed, one of the requirements in becoming a master teacher is to have a student's trust in him exceed 60. This is a standard prerequisite. Otherwise, they won't be qualified. Elder Mo Xiang nodded his head. 60. Elder Shang Chen couldn't help but be astonished. This level of trust is equivalent to the position of their parents in the heart of the students. Despite being together for their entire life, the trust level between parents and children were only 60. It was clear to see how difficult it would be for the relationship between a teacher and a student to reach such a level as well. It was no wonder that there wasn't a single master teacher in Danxuan Kingdom. The prerequisites were simply too harsh. If Lu Xun and Wang Zhao of your academy were to maintain this standard for 30 years or so, there is a possibility of them becoming an associate master teacher. Elder Mo stroked his beard. There's no need for master teachers to do everything by themselves. Sometimes, they would delegate tasks to their assistants to help them. The role of an associate master teacher was similar to that of an apprentice. It was a path one must walk on if they intended to become a master teacher. Associate master teacher? Elder Shang Chen gasped in surprise. For them to be able to become associate master teachers, this clearly showed the standards Lu Xun and Wang Zhao possessed. I wonder what the trust levels the students the both of them are guiding have towards them are. He couldn't help but ask. Throughout these years, they have garnered quite a positive reputation. Those older students whom they have guided for many years should be able to reach up to 40. However, it will be difficult for it to rise any higher. Elder Mo shook his head. Being an elder from the teacher guild, he was knowledgeable about the circumstances of many teachers. That's true. Shang Chen nodded his head. It was difficult to accrue trust, and yet, it falls exceptionally easy oftentimes. It could be torn apart by just a small incident. If that wasn't the case, master teachers wouldn't possess such tremendous reputation. I've heard that a genius young lady has appeared in our teacher guild despite being just 18 or 19 this year. She has already become a low-level associate master teacher. Upon recalling the news, Elder Shang Chen couldn't resist asking. She's the daughter of our guild leader. She is indeed a talent. Upon bringing up this person, Elder Mo stroked his beard and nodded his head in commendation. Associate master teachers could be split into low-level, intermediate level and high-level as well. To join one of their ranks under 20 was a fearsome accomplishment, even considering the fact that she was only a low-level associate master teacher. Incredible. Upon receiving confirmation of the fact, Elder Shang Chen nodded his head in commendation. He might be the head of the Education Bureau of Hongshan Academy, but in reality, he was just a high-level teacher. He didn't have the qualifications to become a low-level associate master teacher. After which, Shang Chen didn't go on further on the topic. Instead, he looked at Zhang Xuan and Cao Xun. Elder Mo, how much trust level do you think the both of them will receive? It's best for you to leave now. Leave Hongshan Academy and never come back. Seeing the young man standing there foolishly to await the results of the Enlightenment Will trial, Shenbairu couldn't help but to walk forward and direct these words to him with a suppressed voice. In her perspective, Zhang Xuan and Shang Bin were two people from completely different worlds. If it weren't for her, there was no way the two would mix together. Such a circumstance had arisen because of her. If Zhang Xuan were to be beaten 100 times by the god-slaying flog and have his teaching license revoked, she would definitely feel guilty about his plight. You wish to leave now? It's a little too late. Seeing his goddess showing concern towards another man, Shang Bin spat out these words through gritted teeth. You don't even show the slightest concern when I am reduced to this state. And yet, you worry about this fellow who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. Damn it, damn it. His face turned savage and he was so angry that he might explode at any moment now. That's right. The Enlightenment Will trial has already begun. You wish to leave? Dream on. Cao Xun walked forward and revealed a face of enthusiastic savagery. The results are about to be out. By then, you will understand how foolish your actions were. Are you that certain that you will achieve victory? Seeing how confident the other party was, as though the winning ticket was in his hand, Zhang Xuan shook his head and asked, hee. Staring at the young man as though he was a fool, Cao Xun sneered coldly. Let me tell you the truth then. This Liu Yang was specially invited here by me. I have been living with him for half a month and our trust level should probably exceed 20. What about you? Do you think you are capable of reaching 10 points? After deceiving him over to your side from me forcefully, I think it is very possible for your score to be negative. While 0 meant no trust whatsoever, negative meant resentment. The greater the resentment, the more negative the number would be. He still clearly remembered Liu Yang's lingering and reluctant gaze when he was pulled away from him. How could someone who had guided a student to go berserk make this proud fellow concede to them? It was very probable for the relationship between the two to still be frosty, so how could Liu Yang not bear any resentment toward this fellow? Hongshan Academy is the #1 academy of Tanxuan Kingdom. If a student were to really hold a trust level below that of 10 points towards his teacher will probably become a laughingstock and the event will be known all across the entire kingdom. Shang Bin laughed mockingly. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Since your reputation is already as bad as it can get, there is no need for you to worry about becoming a laughingstock. You all. Seeing the two of them putting him down, Shenbairu's angry face flushed pink just as she was about to refute them. She noticed that the person in question, Zhang Xuan, was still maintaining an impassive and calm face towards their insults, as though he wasn't bothered by their mocking at all. To tell the truth, Zhang Xuan really didn't care about it. These fellows can talk as much as they can now. When the result comes out in a while, it will be interesting to see them cry. The two of them. Hearing Elder Shang Chen's words, Elder Mo Xiang hesitated for a moment before deducing. This Liu Yang was recommended here by Cao Xunloshi, so his trust level towards him should be slightly higher. Even so, in my opinion, it should only be around 18 or 19 after all. 20 is a large hurdle to overcome. As for Zhang Xuan, if he truly coerced Liu Yang, then it is likely for the trust level to be negative. If the trust level turns out to be negative, Hongshan Academy will be embarrassed at that moment. I will be depending on Elder Mo. Elder Shang Chen said. Naturally. Elder Mo's eyes were bright and stern as an elder from the teacher guild. I will not allow such scum to appear in our midst. If it turns out to be negative, then there is no doubt that Liu Yang has been coerced into acknowledging him. I will report the incident up to the guild and adamantly push for Zhang Xuan's teaching license to be revoked. Hearing the other party's promise, Elder Shang Chen smiled. Then, his eyes twinkled and he pointed forward. Look, the results are about to be out. The moment his voice sounded, the light the two crystal balls were emanating from the center of the room started to waver and gradually dim. In the Enlightenment Will trial, the person who was involved in the trial had to go through all kinds of illusory realms before they were able to make a choice from the bottom of their heart at this instant. The fading of the light meant that he had already undergone the experiences required for the test, and the results were about to be revealed. Weng. Numbers likely wavered into existence on the crystal ball by the left. The results are out. Misfortune is about to befall you. Seeing the numbers slowly floating into existence on the crystal ball, Cao Xun's excited eyes gleamed. This time, not only would he be able to accept Liu Yang back under his tutelage, he would also be able to throw Zhang Xuan out and turn the favor of Shang Bin Xie with such a pillar of support. Wouldn't his future in the academy be smooth sailing? Young master. Probably, in less than a few years, he would be able to rise through the ranks successfully to become a high-level teacher. Just as he was getting excited over the scene playing in his mind, the numbers in the crystal ball finally stopped wavering, and they appeared before the crowd. His trust level in me definitely exceeds 20. Roaring, Cao Xun hurriedly turned his attention to the crystal ball. Yet, with a glance, his excitement choked in his throat and he felt like a duck being grasped at its neck. His eyes widened to the point that they were about to fall onto the floor. How can this be possible? The results unfolding before him drove him to the brink of insanity. This was something he dared not to imagine. Liu Yang was a student whom he personally invited over. Furthermore, the two even accompanied one another for half a month, giving rise to their close relationship. How could he possibly only hold such a level of trust towards him? The giant numbers on the crystal ball were clear and conspicuous as though it was a long sword. It stabbed into his heart. 10. Liu Yang's trust level toward him was a mere 10 points. Anything below 10 meant a lack of trust. 10 was right at the boundary, but it wasn't too far off from it. Just a moment ago, he even narcissistically boasted that the trust level would be at least 20. Yet, the result slapped him hard in his face. Is this the basis of your confidence? Zhang Xuan looked over. Cao Xun failed to catch his breath and almost fainted on the spot. I had gone through so much trouble, traveling the distance to find you and bring you over, after which, we even spent so much time together. Yet, how can your trust level be so low, brother? What is wrong with you? Looking at Liu Yang, the thought of suicide even flashed through Cao Xun's mind. Where is the trust? Where is the basic trust between humans? Chapter 66. This can't be true. Only 10 points? Not only did Cao Xun feel himself going insane, even Elder Mo and Elder Shang Chen couldn't help but blink their eyes in disbelief. To apply for an enlightenment will trial with just that meager trust level, may I ask where did your self-confidence come from? If you wish to take a student off the hands of another teacher, you should at least possess unparalleled standing in the heart of the student, otherwise, you are just making a fool out of yourself. Initially, we thought that his trust level toward you should be able to reach at least 20, even though it isn't a really high number, it is still within an acceptable range. Yet the heck, 10? Are you sure that you aren't joking with us? Elder Shang Chen's face darkened, an inauspicious omen loomed in his mind. One didn't fear a godly opponent, only a pig-like teammate. It was clear that the pig-like teammate had already appeared. By the side, the corners of Shang Bin's mouth twitched and white foam almost spilled from it. Before we came here, you declared proudly that Liu Yang would definitely be willing to come under your tutelage once more with this level of trust. Tutelage it was, you said. Tutelage your head. The heck? You are trying to fool me, aren't you? So what if his trust level in me is just 10? Liu Yang has a skeptical personality and he doesn't believe anyone easily. His trust level in me might just be 10, but as long as you fail to exceed that, I will still be the victor. A moment later, Cao Xun recovered and howled at Zhang Xuan. Skeptical personality? If he truly has such a personality, then the situation makes sense. Elder Mo nodded his head. Humans differed from one to the other. There were a few who were born trusting, while others were born skeptical. No matter how close and amiable a relationship one possessed with him, he couldn't help but be suspicious of them. This had something to do with the situation one grew up in. If one was born in a treacherous place full of schemes, it wouldn't be an easy task to establish trust with them. Based on his judgment, Liu Yang should possess a trust level of around 17 to 18 towards Cao Xun, yet it turned out to just be 10. If it was true that the former had this kind of personality, then everything fitted together perfectly. That's right, as long as his trust level towards you does not exceed 10 points, then it is still unknown who the one laughing at the end will be. Shang Bin's eyes lit up and he nodded his head. He decided to place his trust in Cao Xun once more. Cao Loshi might not be famous in the academy, and he wasn't a star teacher either. However, he had many good reviews when put against Zhang Xuan. It was like the difference between a delicacy and dung, totally incomparable. If the former only had 10 points, the latter was bound to have far worse results. At this point, the crowd continued staring at the other crystal ball. The light had yet to fully fade from it yet, and it was still shrouded in a thin layer of light. Why isn't the result out yet? Shenbairu frowned slightly. Different illusory realms appear in the tests of the Will Inquisition crystal, so naturally, the time taken for each of them will be different as well. It is normal for some to be faster than the others. Hearing the words of his goddess, Shang Bin stepped forward and putting on a knowledgeable look, he explained. As the grandson of the head of the Education Bureau, he knew quite a lot more about the Enlightenment Will trial than most of the other teachers. Normally, this kind of acting cool could attract quite a lot of screams, given his dashing looks and extraordinary aura. Just that. It was a pity that the areas around his eyes were bruised black and his face was swollen red. His lips were as though two hanging sausages, and he wasn't much different from the hunchback from the clock tower. In fact, it seemed as though the word dashing had nothing to do with him at all. Then, will the results be better if the test is completed faster, or if it is completed slower? Ignoring his attempt to act cool, Shenbairu continued asking. Of course faster is better. If the trial is completed faster, it shows that the student undergoing the trial trusts his teacher from the bottom of his heart to the point that there is no need to even ponder over his instructions. On the other hand, if the trial takes a long period of time, it means that the student does not trust his teacher, and a negative score could very possibly appear. With his hands behind his back, Shang Bin smiled faintly with a confident look. He said, Shen Loshi, trust me, I might not have undergone the Enlightenment Will trial, but I have read numerous books regarding it. For Liu Yang to be coerced by Zhang Xuan Loshi to acknowledge him as his master, he is bound to hold some resentment against him. It would be normal for him to score a negative 10 or so. Just as he was declaring proudly, rationalizing the reason behind the theory out for Shenbairu, he felt a tug on his shirt, interrupting him from his recount on the ending he expected to occur. What are you doing? Shang Bin knitted his eyebrows together in displeasure. It was hard for him to gain an opportunity to perform before his goddess, yet someone just had to interrupt him at such an untimely period. Turning around, it was Cao Xun. At this moment, Cao Xun Loshi's eyes were filled with fear and his body trembled uncontrollably. The confidence he had a moment ago had completely faded. He pointed forward and said, Shang Shao, look, Shao, young master. Looking towards the direction of the finger, the glow from the crystal had finally disappeared without a trace, and a line of numbers had floated to the surface. Why? Could it be that his score isn't a negative? In the midst of his words, Shang Bin glanced at the numbers that have appeared on the crystal, and in that instant, he almost bit his tongue to commit suicide. How is this possible? This, I don't believe it. Shang Bin was about to go crazy. The numbers were clearly displayed on the crystal ball. 64. This meant that the level of trust had reached 64 points. A fellow who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination actually managed to get his students' trust in him to reach the level of a master teacher, comparable to that of the trust between a child and his parents. How was this possible? Shang Bin looked at Cao Xun at this moment. The thought of killing him even flashed through his mind. He felt a stifling sensation in his chest and blood seemed to be welling up at the back of his throat. It was difficult for him to find an opportunity to act cool before his goddess. He proudly declared that one's results would get worse as time went by, only for such a situation to occur. The heck, are you playing with me? Furthermore, Cao Loshi, can you be a bit more useful? Didn't you say that this student has a skeptical personality? Mayasi has a skeptical personality. How can someone skeptical hold 64 points of trust towards others? Didn't you say that you are confident in winning? 10 points against 64 points. The heck do you intend to win like this? Tears streaming down his face, Shang Bin felt a stinging sensation on his face. It felt as though his face had been slapped mercilessly by someone else several times at this moment. He wished fervently to find a hole to hide in. 64? Different from the disbelief and mental breakdown of the other two, Elder Mo stood up abruptly and trembled in agitation. This level of trust had already reached the standards of a master teacher even for him. It was the first time he had seen such results. A fellow who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination could actually induce such trust from his students? How did he do it? Furthermore, it had just been 2 days since the start of school. Even if this Zhang Xuan, Loshi and Liu Yang had stayed together throughout the entire period, at maximum, they could only have 30 hours of interaction with one another in such a short period of time. To get one's trust level beyond 60, even the legendary 1-star master teacher would find it difficult to achieve such a feat. There were also different tiers to master teachers. 1-star was the lowest of them all. Even so, the prestige and influence they held were sufficient to drive others insane. The two elders, is this considered as my victory? Couldn't be bothered with the stunned Shang Bin and Cao Xun. Zhang Xuan directed his gaze toward Shang Chen and Mo Xiang. Impossible. There must be a problem with the crystal, otherwise, how can he have such a high trust level? I will not accept this result. Cao Xun howled. It was no wonder that he is unwilling to accept it. It was as though a beggar he had been interacting with suddenly turned out to be an emperor. As someone who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination, he thought that the results would definitely end up as a negative, yet not only was it not a negative, it turned out to be an overwhelming 64, surpassing all teachers within the school. His will could already be considered rather strong given that he had yet to go insane at this point. I also agree with Cao Loshi's words. How can he induce such a level of trust in his students? If it is true, doesn't that mean that even Lu Xun and Wang Zhao are incomparable to him? Shang Bin stepped forward and said through gritted teeth. Hearing the words of the two, Elder Mo was about to say something when he saw Liu Yang, who had just completed the trial, walking over to Zhang Xuan with glowing eyes that were filled with reverence. Chapter 67, The Arrival of the Wang Clan. This reverence came from the depth of his heart. There was no way to feign those bright and clear eyes. That gaze was indubitably the gaze that one directs at someone whom he was impressed with. There wasn't the slightest impurity in his gaze. With a single look, Elder Mo Xiang knew that Liu Yang truly revered this Zhang Loshi, and that it wasn't to fault with the crystal. Shut up. Knowing this, Elder Mo's face darkened. Cold intent exuded from his glare. The Will Inquisition crystal tests one's heart, forcing them to make the most correct decision in their opinion. Never has a problem occurred with it, and it is impossible for it to malfunction. If you continue on with this nonsense, I will throw you both out. Seeing Elder Mo so angry, Shang Bin and Cao Xun went mute, not daring to say a single word more. How did you do it? Upon seeing this result, Shen Bairu covered her mouth in shock, unable to believe that such a result was possible. A trust level of 64, even the star teachers of Hongshan Academy who had led their students for several years couldn't possibly obtain such results. From yesterday, this young man had been bringing her countless surprises. She didn't expect that the surprise today would be even greater. No wonder he is fearless. Looks like he has already known that he would win. Since I have won, should we carry out the terms we had agreed on, stripping Cao Loshi of his teaching license and lashing him with 100 god-slaying flogs? Zhang Xuan looked over. Since he started the affair, then he should have realized that the same could happen to him as well. I am a transcender from the modern civilization with a gift pack. Do you think that I will allow an ancient person like you bully me? This Elder Shang Chen was in a dilemma. He had intended to help his grandson vent his anger, yet not only did he fail to vent his anger, he was slapped in the face once more with an awkward expression. He was at a loss of what he should do. Let's not let things go too far, Zhang Loshi. Since you have won, let's just let this matter drop. After a moment, Elder Shang Chen said, let this matter drop. If I was the one who lost, Elder Shang Chen probably won't be saying such words. Zhang Xuan frowned. If he was the one who lost today, it was within expectations that the Education Bureau would pursue this matter to no end. It would be impossible for him to not be expelled. Yet, now that he has won, he actually wanted to try to settle this with just a few words. What kind of joke was this? Audacious. Elder Shang Chen's face darkened. Mind your identity. You are just a lowly low-level teacher who managed to stumble upon some luck that allowed your students' trust towards you to grow rapidly. This is just a one-time exception. Is there anything about it to be gleeful about? If you are truly capable, then raise their cultivation realms before we talk about this matter. You have only earned the trust of a single individual. What significance can this hold? That's right. This Zhang Xuan is born with the innate ability to deceive others. So what if the trust level towards him is high? If I'm not wrong, the reason why the student he had taught previously went berserk is because he had trusted him too much. That's why he was deceived, causing him to regret his entire life. Hearing the chastise, Cao Xun Loshi quickly reacted and pushed on. Trust level is just a criterion to evaluate a teacher's standards. It isn't reflective of their true abilities. There is only one way to prove a teacher's capabilities, that is to make their students' strength grow rapidly. So what if your student trusts you as though you are their parents? If you don't have the ability to guide them along, you still aren't a qualified teacher. Berserk? Elder Mo frowned. Elder Mo might not have heard of it, but this Zhang Xuan has once caused the cultivation of his student to go berserk. Due to this incident, all of his students fled from him. That's also the reason why his teacher qualification examination ended with 0 marks. Cao Xun said with a savage expression, I suspect that the reason why Liu Yang trusts him so much is because he used some special deception methods. Otherwise, how can a fellow who has scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination raise the trust level of a student to be above 60 in just 2 short days? It wasn't impossible for the words that they speak of to be true. In the past, there was a teacher that used a special method to delude a student so as to take the examination to become a master teacher. The method he used is similar to hypnotism, causing even the subconsciousness of the student to think that he was worthy of trust. However, these methods were limited by time. After the duration ends, the student's psyche would be severely damaged. Could it be that this Zhang Xuan had used a method similar to that? If that's truly the case, it would mean that he didn't care about the safety of his students at all. Not only was he an unqualified teacher, he would be a criminal as well. A teacher should concentrate mainly on nurturing others. If one were to win the trust of his students, yet not possessing the relevant knowledge to impart to them, his students will only be misguided, causing an even greater catastrophe. That's precisely the reason why no one in or out of the academy trusts him, and why he is unable to recruit many students. His results this term are better than the previous one, but even so, he had only recruited 5 students. Shang Bin interrupted the conversation contemptuously. Only recruited 5 students? That number is indeed a little low. Elder Mo nodded his head. Regardless of the number of students I have recruited, and whether I am able to teach my students well or not, this is the Enlightenment Will Tower, and my student and I are here to participate in the Enlightenment Will trial. We have already come to an agreement on the stakes beforehand. Now that I have won, do you all intend to go back on your words? Zhang Xuan said. There's no use rambling on about those useless things. The other party is clearly trying to divert the topic after their loss. Audacious. How can a teacher's teaching license be revoked so easily because of a gamble? Aren't you taking this too lightly? Ever since Cao Sunloshi joined our academy last year, he has been working diligently. He has nurtured a fighter to Dan intermediate stage, and innumerable talents joining our ranks had identified him as the teacher they want to acknowledge. He has brought glory and honor to our academy. What about you? You are the only person to have scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination in the 100 years of history of Hongshan Academy. What rights do you have to be spouting nonsense here? Elder Shang Chen flung his sleeves and said, all right, let's just end the matter like that. We will talk about it when you are able to cultivate a student to fighter to Dan intermediate stage, and when more students are willing to acknowledge you as their teachers. Elder Shang Shenbairu raised her eyebrows. Initially, she didn't intend to say anything, but never did she expect that an elder would actually help Cao Sunloshi cheat. Fury raged in her heart. They shouldn't have made this gamble if they were afraid to carry out the punishment. They were the one who proposed the gamble, and yet now, they are trying to push away the consequences upon losing. Aren't they being too shameless? Shenloshi, my grandfather is right. No matter what, Cao Sun is a respectable teacher of our academy. It is making a big fuss to have him expelled over such a minute affair. Besides, firing such a talent is a loss to our academy, Shang Bin said with a bright smile. You are being unreasonable. Shenbairu's face flushed red just like what Zhang Xuan said. If he had lost, will you all let him off just like that? What does he count as? Can he be compared with Cao Sunloshi? Can he nurture a fighter to Dan student? Can he attract countless students to the academy through his reputation? Shang Bin sneered coldly. Dong dong dong. Before he could finish his words, knocking sounds echoed from outside the hall. Is there anything? Elder Shang Chen frowned, following which, Ziloshi, the teacher on duty today, pushed the door open and walked in. Elder Shang. There are people outside seeking an audience. They claim to be clan head Wang Hong and elders of the Wang clan of Danxuan Royal City. The teacher said, clan head Wang Hong? Hurry up and invite him in. Upon hearing that clan head Wang Hong had come personally, Elder Shang Chen stood up abruptly, his eyes twinkling with enthusiasm. The powers in Danxuan Royal City were complicated to become one of the 4 great clans and remain standing even after 100 years. Their accumulation through the ages and strength was one to behold. In fact, the standing of clan head Wang Hong was in no way inferior to their vice principal. For a person of such standing to pay a visit to him along with the elders of his family, just the honor from the act itself was enough to send him into a frenzy. If word were to spread out, it would definitely add a beautiful and powerful stroke to his reputation and qualifications. Chapter 68, Paying Respect to Teacher Zhang Xuan. Grandfather, I have heard of clan head Wang Hong. He is listed in the potential Zongxi board and he ranks within the top 10 most influential figures within the kingdom. His cultivation has already reached Fighter 7 Dan Pinnacle, just a step off from Zongxi. Why would a person of such standing pay a visit to you? Shang Bin's eyes shone in excitement, although he still found the situation before him unbelievable. In Danxuan Kingdom, those who knew of the royal family were aware of the 4 great clans as well. Clan head Wang Hong, as the strongest individual in the Wang clan, had already reached Fighter 7 Dan Pinnacle and his name spread far and wide. Normally, it was impossible to fawn on such a person even if one intended to, yet today, he specially made the journey to pay a visit to his grandfather. If it weren't for him hearing the news firsthand, it would be hard for him to think of it to be true. Haha, it must be Wang Tao. Elder Shang Chen chuckled. Wang Tao Shao. Shao, young master. That's right, Wang Tao is the eldest son of clan head Wang Hong and eventually, he will succeed his position in the Wang clan. Not only did I accept him as my disciple, I even successfully brought his strength up to Fighter 4 Dan Piga Realm. Thinking of it now, the clan head might be aware of my efforts to nurture him. Thus, he came here specially to express his gratitude. Elder Shang Chen stroked his beard. Indescribable gleefulness could be heard from his words. Wang Tao is his student? Listening to their conversation, Zhang Xuan was taken aback. He was aware that Wang Ying's brother was accepted as a disciple by an elder, however, never would he have imagined that the elder would be him. Yes. Shenbairu nodded her head. Although her complexion was still awful, it would be better for you to expend your energy on thinking of a solution to your problem. Elder Shang Chen is obviously against you, and now, he has the Wang clan behind his back as well. In the future, he will be even more domineering. Even if you were to stay in the academy, you will be in for a difficult time. We'll talk about it in the future. Zhang Xuan didn't care about it at all, even if the other party were to pick against him. He wasn't someone that could be bullied so easily. At most, he just had to reveal his strength and settle the matter with strength. After all, with the Library of Heaven's Path which allowed him to see through the flaws of others, it was hard to say which one of them would emerge victorious. Seeing the fellow behaving so nonchalantly, Shenbairu stomped her feet furiously. She had been worrying about him, and yet he didn't care about it at all. How infuriating. Let's go and welcome them. Gleefully, Elder Shang Chen hurriedly led Shang Bin and the rest to the entrance of the academy. A personal visit from the clan head of one of the 4 great clans, it would be worth the effort even if they had to welcome him from outside the academy. Needless to say, its entrance, if he could strike a connection with them, then it was possible that he might even become a candidate for the position of vice principal for the selection that was going to be held next year. Elder Shang. Before reaching the entrance, a group of 7 to 8 people walked over with widened strides. The one leading the group was a middle-aged man. There was an authoritative tone between his brows. It was clear with one look that he had been in an esteemed position for a long time. The clan head of the Wang clan, Wang Hong. There were a few elderly following behind him, and every movement of theirs exuded the strength of one that was at minimum peak Xu realm without guessing. It was clear to see that they are the elders of the Wang clan. At the very back, there were 2 youngsters. One of them was Wang Tao while the other one was the grandson of the second elder, Wang Yan, who was just admitted into the academy this year. It was said that he had been admitted as a student of Luxun Loshi possessing decent talent. He was favored by him. I am flattered by the personal visit of clan head Wang. If there is any matter, you can always just pass a message to me coming over like this. I am very honored. Elder Shang Chen hurriedly said. There is no need to be so formal. To tell the truth, I do have a matter that I require your help on. Clan head Wang Hong replied with a smile. Clan head Wang, feel free to speak. Elder Shang Chen quickly responded. If he was able to do him a favor, then surely he would be able to successfully climb on the massive tree known as the Wang clan. I'm sure Elder Shang has already heard of my youngest daughter, Wang Ying. I've heard that she had acknowledged a teacher named Zhang Xuan. Clan head Wang Hong spoke slowly. Zhang Xuan? Is clan head Wang here to find trouble with him? Shang Bin's eyes twinkled. He almost leapt from the overwhelming elation upon hearing those words. Previously, he saw Wang Taoxiao outside Zhang Xuan's classroom, and he knew that Wang Ying was deceived into becoming Zhang Xuan's student. It was within his expectations that the Wang clan would not allow such a thing to happen. However, not even in his dreams would he have expected that the other party would make a move so swiftly, even having their clan head to come in person to settle the issue. Clenching his fists tightly, Shang Bin roared frenziedly in laughter in his mind. So what if you have won the Enlightenment Will trial? This is the Wang clan, one of the 4 great clans of Danxuan Royal City. Not mentioning how you are the worst teacher of the entire academy. Even if a reputable teacher like Wang Zhao were to offend them, he will also be in for a ride of misfortune. Given that Shang Bin was able to think of such a possibility, naturally, Cao Xun also arrived at the same conclusion. His entire body trembled intensely in excitement, as though he was afflicted with epilepsy. Shut up. This isn't the place for you to speak. Hearing his grandson interrupt clan head Wang's words, Elder Shang Chen quickly chastised him. Even though he was the head of the education bureau, he had too much work that required his attention. All he knew was that Zhang Xuan had recruited 5 students, but as for who the 5 are, he was completely oblivious to it. As such, he didn't know that Wang Ying was also his student. Don't worry about clan head Wang Hong waved his hand to show that he wasn't bothered by Shang Bin's interruption. However, halfway through his words, Wang Tao stepped forward and shouted, Father. What's wrong? Clan head Wang Hong frowned. That person there is Zhang Xuan Loshi. Wang Tao pointed. Upon walking into the hall of the Enlightenment Will Tower, he spotted and recognized Zhang Xuan. He is Zhang Loshi. Looking over, clan head Wang Hong's eyebrows shot up. That's right, this person over here is our academy's Zhang Xuan. He never thought that Zhang Loshi would be so daring to even deceive Wang Ying. A gleam flashed across Elder Shang Chen's eyes as he introduced him with a smile. Hee. This time, he is in for a tough time. Clan head Wang is decisive when it comes to killing others. He isn't as law-abiding as us teachers. He deserves it. To dare to even deceive the precious daughter of clan head Wang. Aren't his guts a little much too inflated? Seeing clan head Wang Hong turning his attention to Zhang Xuan the moment he walked into the hall, Shang Bin and Cao Xun laughed heartily in their hearts at his misfortune. Which of those who managed to become a clan head of the 4 great clans aren't vicious? As the academy's worst teacher, he is courting death for trying to coax the daughter of such a person. Just when the 2 thought that Zhang Xuan was doomed this time, an incredulous spectacle suddenly unfolded before them. They only saw clan head Wang Hong taking 2 steps forward to stand before Zhang Xuan. He wasn't as angry as they expected him to be. Neither did he assault him as they expected him to. Rather, with an excited expression, he bowed deeply and carefully. Wang Hong pays his respects to Zhang Xuan Loshi. His attitude made it feel as though he was paying respects to some great leader, fearful that his abrupt appearance and words would incur the displeasure of the other party. The heck? Surely my eyes are mistaken. How can this be? Shang Bin and Cao Xun spasmed simultaneously, and the both of them almost lost consciousness on the spot. What is going on? This isn't how the script should go. Shouldn't clan head Wang Hong roar at Zhang Xuan upon catching sight of him, then pummel him while he's at it? Why did he suddenly bow, and even pay respects? It might just be a formality, but not even his own grandfather, Elder Shang Chen, had the privilege of being greeted like this just now. What rights did a fellow with a score of 0 in the teacher qualification examination have to be entitled to such a greeting? Calm down. Clan head Wang Hong being angry hurts one's liver. The worst teacher in the academy isn't worthy of your wrath, Fun. Cough cough. Initially, Elder Shang Chen had wanted to play the role of a good person so as to pretend to persuade him otherwise. However, halfway through his words, he saw that sight unfolding before him in this instant. He felt as though he had eaten a dead rat. His smile froze on his face and he almost choked to death on his saliva. Didn't you say that Zhang Xuan deceived Wang Ying to become his student? Didn't you say that clan head Wang Hong is here to find trouble with him? Can someone tell me what the heck is going on here? Chapter 69, Withdrawing from Tutelage. Clan head Wang, you. Not just the crowd was shocked, even Zhang Xuan was slightly bewildered by the current situation. Even if he had taught Wang Ying, there shouldn't be any need for him to specially make the journey to visit him. You treated my daughter's legs and imparted to her incredibly profound knowledge. It is only fitting for me to come in person to show you my gratitude. Clan head Wang nodded his head. The issue of Wang Ying's legs had always been a weight on his heart. Not only did this teacher treat her disability, he even brought about a rise in her strength. His capabilities were already comparable to a master teacher. Before a master teacher, even his identity as the head of the Wang clan meant nothing at all. She is my student, so it is natural that I have to guide her well. This is where my responsibility lies, so there's no need for you to be thankful to me. Zhang Xuan nodded his head. The responsibility of an educator was to impart knowledge, impart skills and clarify doubts. In his previous life, although he might have just been a librarian in a high school, he was still a member of the teaching faculty. As such, he held high respect and love toward this occupation. Since Wang Ying was his student, there was no reason for him to feel smug for solving her problems to allow her to cultivate better. Upon seeing the calmness he spoke with, the crowd went insane once more. This was the head of the Wang clan. It was like a beggar meeting a billionaire. How could he still remain so calm, not anxious in the least at all? This is where my responsibility lies. Good, good. Taking this scene into sight, Elder Mo stroked his beard and he nodded his head in approval. As the winds of the world changed, the ancient values gradually corroded in the pursuit of fame and benefits. Many teachers have already forgotten their primary objective. It was respectable for this Zhang Xuan Loshi to be able to remain true to his core. With this kind of mindset, along with Liu Yang's high level of trust and clan head Wang Hong's commendation and respect, could Elder Shang Chen be mistaken? At this point, doubts started to bloom in Elder Mo's mind. Before he came, he had heard many criticisms about Zhang Xuan Loshi from Shang Chen, causing him to think that he was truly a useless trash who is only capable of deceit, flattery and bringing harm upon others. However, by the looks of it now, this didn't seem to be the case at all. However, he chose to keep his misgivings to himself and continued to watch over the situation. Clan head Wang, please proceed in. As expected of an elder, Shang Chen's awkward expression recovered swiftly as he invited the group from the Wang clan to their respective seats. Clan head Wang Hong. Elder Mo clasped his hand. Oh, it is Elder Mo Xiang from the Teacher Guild. What kind of wind brought you here today? Only noticing Elder Mo now, Wang Hong quickly stood up. The Teacher Guild was the #1 guild, rising above that of the Apothecary Guild, Formation Master Guild and many others. Even if the cultivation of the elders in the guild was not comparable to his own, they still weren't people that a mere Wang clan could afford to offend. There is some minor matter that requires my attention. Elder Mo casually replied. Then, with a puzzled look, he gazed over. Even if Wang Yingxiji were to acknowledge Zhang Xuan as her teacher, there shouldn't be any need for you to come over personally to pay a visit to him. Xiji, Miss/young mistress, who is this person before him? The clan head of one of the 4 great clans, an incredible expert who lords over a formidable power. Even if his daughter had acknowledged Zhang Xuan as her teacher, and Zhang Xuan had treated the disability that had been plaguing her for a long time, the situation still shouldn't warrant a personal visit on his part. Looks like Elder Mo is still as wise as always. Indeed, I have something that I need to trouble Elder Shang Chen for. Clan head Wang Hong nodded his head with a smile. Oh? Trouble me? Clan head Wang is too polite. Feel free to speak whatever you need me. As long as it is within my abilities, I will try my best to accomplish it. Hearing that the other party had something to ask of him, Elder Shang Chen's self-confidence recovered. He looked at Zhang Xuan gleefully as he stroked his beard, putting on an attitude of superiority. You just happened to treat Wang Ying's disability by coincidence, thus impelling Clan head Wang to spare you an additional glance. However, if we were to look at the situation carefully, regardless of identity or the ability to nurture others, you still pale too much in comparison to me. Look, Clan head Wang has something to ask of me. It's like this: my son has been under your tutelage for these few days and he has been under Shang Loshi's care. I apologize for not coming over personally earlier to express my gratitude to you. With a hand gesture from Clan head Wang, an elder walked forward and presented something. This is a token of my appreciation for the concern you have shown my son these few days. Clan head Wang, there's no need to be so polite. Teaching and nurturing the young generation is the duty of a teacher. I dare not accept your present. Elder Shang Chen quickly rejected it. Given that Elder Mo from the Teacher Guild was here, even if he wanted to accept the presents, he would need the guts to do so. Elder Shang's upright character is worthy of admiration. Upon the other party's refusal, Clan head Wang Hong waved his hand as he dropped the matter. Then, he hesitated for a moment before continuing. Actually, there is something I would like to discuss with Elder Shang today. Recently, my son has been facing some problems in his cultivation. He realized that Elder's lessons weren't compatible with him. So can you withdraw him from your tutelage? Withdraw from my tutelage? Upon hearing these words, the calm on the surface but gleeful on the inside, Elder Shang Chen staggered and almost fell down. Withdraw from my tutelage? Why would you want to withdraw from my tutelage all of a sudden? A student withdrawing from a teacher's tutelage was equivalent to slapping him in his face. As this meant that the teacher's ability to impart knowledge was subpar initially, he thought that Clan head Wang Hong was here to delegate some task to him, so he was feeling lethal about it in the end. The reason for his visit turned out to be this matter. The heck, if news of it were to spread out, he might even lose his position as head of the Education Bureau. He could very well die from the shame. Indeed. I hope that Elder can fulfill this request of mine. Clan head Wang Hong said. This Elder Shang Chen felt a fiery sensation on his face, as though someone slapped it. He felt like throwing a temper, but at the same time, he dared not to. After hesitating for a long period of time, he squeezed out a smile and said, Clan head Wang, don't worry about it. Since your son has already made his decision, then I will grant his request. After which, he took the identity jade token from the other party and drips a droplet of his fresh blood on it. Wang. His lessons plan on it had been erased. My gratitude, Elder Shang. Clan head Wang Hong nodded his head in satisfaction as he passed the jade token to Wang Tao. There's no need for such words. The relationship between a teacher and a student should be mutual. If he is unable to adapt to my teachings, it is perfectly normal for him to want to withdraw from my tutelage. Just that. May I know which teacher Wang Tao wants to acknowledge after withdrawing from my tutelage? As his heart bled, Elder Shang Chen squeezed out a smile. Wang Tao was an extremely famous student. Under his wing he was an incredible existence that was able to score within the top 10 in the level examinations every year. For such a person to withdraw from his tutelage just by thinking about it, he felt like pulling his hair out. At the same time, he was also perplexed since clan head Wang Hong was adamant to have his son withdraw from his tutelage. Who would he have him acknowledge? He was an elder, as well as the head of the education bureau. He might not be the best teacher in the entire academy, but he was considered as a star teacher. There were many people who would squeeze their way to come under his wing. He truly couldn't think of anyone who could make the head of the Wang clan specially make the journey here to help his son withdraw from his tutelage and switch to that of theirs. Oh, I already have a candidate in mind. Clan head Wang Hong stood up and walked over to Zhang Xuan courteously. He asked, Zhang Loshi, is it possible for you to accept my son, Wang Tao, under your tutelage? Can you accept him as your student? What? This shouldn't be happening? To withdraw from Elder Shang Chen's lessons, just to become Zhang Xuan's student? Seeing his actions and hearing those words, the entire Enlightenment Will Tower went deathly silent. Everyone had gone insane, especially Elder Shang Chen. He almost puked a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Clan head Wang Hong, you must be joking. Withdrawing from my lessons just to come under the tutelage of a fellow who has scored a 0 in his teacher qualification examination? Shang Bin and Cao Xun were dumbfounded. The trash teacher whom they had viewed contemptuously before actually made the head of a clan personally step forth to persuade an elder to withdraw his son from his tutelage, so that his son could come under his wing. The great heavens and the vast earth, can you be any more unreasonable? However, before the crowd could recover from their insanity, they heard the faint voice of a young man echoing in the room. My apologies, but I refuse. Gudong. Everyone fell to the floor. Chapter 70. Doubts. The heck? Refuse? Brother, are you serious? Shang Bin, Cao Xun and Shen Bairu tugged on their hair, every single one of them on the verge of going mad. The thrill that they had experienced today was much more than what they had experienced in their entire lifetime. Who is Wang Tao? One of the top 10 geniuses in the academy. There isn't a single teacher who isn't vying to pull him under their wing. Back then, Elder Shang Chen only managed to rope him in through exploiting his identity as the head of the education bureau. A genius like that, accompanied with the personal plea from the Wang clan's head. The hell, you actually refused it? Shang Bin and others felt as though they have just incurred 10,000 damage, and they found themselves unable to catch their breath. Just a moment ago, he just criticized him for being unable to recruit students yet. The next moment the Wang clan's head sent his son over to him. However, what was the most shocking of all was that he refused to accept him. My heart, my liver. Elder Shang Chen felt fresh blood coursing erratically around his throat, threatening to spurt out at any moment. Is there still justice in the world? Is there still law in the world? I am an elder, not to mention the head of the education bureau. It is one thing that you withdrew from my tutelage to acknowledge a fellow who scored 0 in his teacher qualification examination as your teacher. The worst of it all is that he refuses to accept. Elder Shang Chen felt as though his face had been torn off violently, ground and scattered onto the floor at this moment. He wished fervently for a hole to appear in the ground so that he could conceal himself in it. Too embarrassing. He felt as though his dignity had been thrown away all the way to his grandmother's house. Standing by the side, Elder Moxiang's eyeballs were also about to fall to the floor. Just a moment ago, his opinion of Zhang Loshi had improved, but by the looks of it now, it seemed that it was still insufficient. Refuse? Awkwardness reflected on the face of clan head Wang. He immediately shot a glance at his son. I beg Zhang Loshi to accept me as your disciple. Wang Tao hurriedly stepped forward, knelt on the floor and looked at Zhang Xuan with a sincere expression. It was true that he had looked down on this Zhang Loshi before. However, upon seeing his younger sister's legs being healed and an explosive surge in her strength, as well as recalling how his sword was clamped by 2 mere fingers of the other party, he was already impressed with him from the bottom of his heart. I refuse. Zhang Xuan waved him away. A student could choose his teacher. Similarly, a teacher could also choose his students as well. Yesterday, this Wang Tao barged into his classroom. Not only was he disrespectful, he even pointed a weapon at him. How could he possibly accept such a student under his wing? Back then, even though Zhao Ye had only challenged him verbally, she was still punished to clean the washroom. If a teacher were to not have any dignity, his students would look down on him. If that's the case, how could his guidance bear any results on them? I know that I was rash and I had offended Zhang Loshi, but on the account that I am still immature and ignorant of etiquette, I hope that you will not hold it against me. Knowing the reason behind his refusal, Wang Tao hurriedly spoke. The dignity of a teacher could not be sullied after he wielded a sword to attack Zhang Xuan. It was one thing for the other party to not to fuss over the matter yet. At this moment, he still hoped to be admitted under his tutelage. It was no wonder that his request would be rejected. Indeed, my son is ignorant of teacher's greatness, so he was a little rash back then. I hope that you can forgive clan head. Wang Hong quickly explained. Wang clan head, there is no need to say these. I don't think that this is the reason why Zhang Loshi refuses to accept your son. At this point, an abrupt voice echoed in the room. Tracing the source of the voice, it came from the one who had just lost in the Enlightenment Will trial a moment ago. Cao Xun. If it was just a moment ago, with Elder Shang Chen's prestige and standing, he was surely able to annul the punishment for him. If that failed, he could also think of methods to drag the punishment out, allowing the agreement to gradually fade out of view. Yet, at this moment, the clan head of the Wang clan, Wang Hong, came over to beg Zhang Xuan. It was very probable that he would be unable to escape the punishment from the Enlightenment Will trial if the situation were to continue on like this. In any case, the situation was already irreversible. There was no need for him to worry about souring his relationship with Zhang Xuan even further. Hearing someone interrupt his words, clan head Wang Hong's face darkened in displeasure. This Zhang Xuan only has the strength of a fighter 3 Dan Zenki realm, whereas Wang Taoxiao's current level of cultivation is fighter 4 Dan Piga realm. Since his strength is unable to match up with him, how can he guide him or give him pointers? The reason why he is reluctant to accept him as his student is because he is aware of it as well. Shao, young master, with a savage expression on his face, Cao Xun roared. Indeed, his strength doesn't even match up to Wang Tao Shao to think that he would even consider accepting him as his student. What a joke. Shang Bin immediately reacted and hurriedly added in. Clan Head Wang, please reconsider your decision. It's alright for Wang Tao Shao to withdraw from my tutelage, but if he were to acknowledge someone whose cultivation realm is lower than him as his teacher, it would be difficult for him to raise his cultivation level in the future. A gleam flashed across Elder Shang Chen's eyes as well. That's right, the Jiang Xuan standing before them only had the strength of a Fighter 3 Dan Zenki realm. This was a fact well known by everyone in the academy. A Fighter 4 Dan expert acknowledging someone weaker than him as his master. This in itself was a joke. This, Jed, Clan Head Wang Hong's heart beat. He had heard of Jiang Xuan's incredible theories from Wang Ying's mouth, but he didn't know his exact level of cultivation. Although Wang Tao had attacked him before, as he had never told him about it, he wasn't aware of it either. If what the other party said was true, and this Jiang Loshi only had the strength of Fighter 3 Dan Zenki realm, then he was truly incapable of teaching Wang Tao. It was true that a teacher who was knowledgeable in theories could impart them to his student, but only by cultivating it and testing it out firsthand would he have a greater comprehension of it. If the teacher himself had yet to reach such heights, then it was unlikely that he is able to teach them well. This was just like in Jiang Xuan's previous life. If the teacher himself was incapable of solving a problem, then how could he teach his student to do it? There were many matters that a teacher was required to be precognizant of, so that the student could take note of them while cultivating. Otherwise, no matter how many incredible theories a teacher might wield in their brain, they were just like a reflection of the moon on the lake, unable to come to be of practical use. Jiang Xuan, even if you wish to teach Wang Tao Shao, do you have the ability to? If you don't, stop putting on an act here with your strength as a Fighter 3 Dan. You might be able to muddle some freshmen who have just entered the academy, but don't dream about doing the same with the older students. Seeing Jiang Xuan remaining silent, savagery and excitement gleamed in Cao Xun's eyes. Indeed, Clan Head Wang, what Cao Xun Loshi says makes sense. Jiang Xuan himself has yet to break through to Fighter 4 Dan, so it is natural that he is unsure of the method of cultivation at that level. How can he guide a student's speaker-own cultivation like that? Regaining his confidence once more, Elder Shang Chen said as he stroked his beard, "No, your words are wrong." Hearing the mocking of the crowd, Wang Tao hurriedly stood up to explain. Who says that Jiang Loshi's strength is unable to match up to me? Yesterday, when I unintentionally offended him, I attacked him with my sword using my full strength, yet he managed to catch my sword easily with just 2 fingers of his. Such a feat is impossible if he is only at Zenki realm. Catch with 2 fingers? Ha, Wang Tao Shao, even if you wanted to spare him some dignity, you need to come up with something more believable. Cao Xun sneered coldly. You are a Fighter 4 Dan Pega realm expert and your strength exceeds 700 kilograms. Furthermore, given the weight and the speed of your blade, even a Pixie realm primary stage expert will find it hard to take it on barehanded. Needless to say, with 2 fingers you can't be trying to tell me that our Jiang Loshi, who scored 0 for the teacher qualification examination, has reached Pixie realm, just like the elders of our school. A sword is light and flexible in its movements, and the full strength attack of a Pega realm advanced stage expert is fast as lightning. If the other party isn't well versed in the opponent's swordsmanship and know precisely where the attack is going to land beforehand, even a Pixie realm primary stage expert will find it hard to catch his attack. Yet, Wang Tao actually said that the worst teacher in the academy managed to catch his attack easily. You must be joking. I've seen it too. Teacher used 2 fingers to hold his sword in place. Liu Yang explained in a fluster as well. He had seen the situation that day with his own eyes and there wasn't any falsehood in his words. However, given his high trust level in Jiang Xuan, the moment he said it, it seemed as though he was helping him to cover up the lie. Clan Head Wang Hong, you are a great clan of cultivators. Ignoring the explanations of the two, Elder Shang Chen sneered coldly. Do you think that someone who isn't at Pixie realm intermediate stage is capable of catching Wang Tao Shao's full strength attack? This Clan Head Wang Hong hesitated, catching Wang Tao's attack at full strength with just 2 fingers. This was a feat that average Pixie realm experts would find difficult to accomplish. This Jiang Loshi might have incredible theories, but to reach Pixie realm intermediate stage at such a young age, even he found it hard to believe. After all, it was too shocking. Wang Tao Shao, I understand that you said those things intentionally to bring up Jiang Xuan's reputation because you want him to accept you as his student. However, there is a limit to everything sometimes. Going too far isn't good. Seeing Wang Hong stumped, Elder Shang Chen opened up his arms majestically and spoke with a wise demeanor just as he was about to continue chatting casually with Clan Head Wang Hong and bring up some profound theories to prove that what Wang Tao said was untrue. He heard the voice of the teacher on duty sounding from beyond the room once more. Elder Shang. What's the matter? Elder Shang Chen frowned in displeasure. Didn't you see that I am in the midst of acting cool? How can one be so incapable of reading the situation? There is someone outside who is seeking an audience with Jiang Xuan Loshi, the teacher on duty said in a fluster. Looking for Jiang Xuan? Who? What's going on today? Why is everyone looking for Jiang Xuan today? It is the son of Zenon Wang, Beig Zun Xiaowan I. The teacher on duty said.